Joe Scarborough, wrong about everything. But I do like tracking what the Democrat plans are. If they can have anything they can hold on to that's going to be effective in an election in 2026 or 2028, they don't have it yet. But I want to know where to point our attention to fight. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are.
It's the Doug Show. Doug Show. Doug Show. It's the Doug Show. Doug Show. Doug Show.
If you're not a member yet, I did a live stream this morning from right over there. I read some Bible. I read David Hume. I read some Chesterton biography. I also went into the living room and showed you my son has field dress torn apart his M1 Garand because he took the younger brother Johnny to the gun range yesterday because we're prepping him for the Marines. So we had to do a little training. Big brother took out little brother, and I showed a little bit of oil painting. If you're not a member, I think it's $10. There's a $20 one that's for date night with Angie and I. You're really missing out on it's kind of all the behind the scenes of why and how I do this show. But let's get to loser Joe Scarborough first. Watch this.
What I've been warning about, what I've been warning Republicans about, because they love to say, oh, we're owning the libs. No, you're taking a hammer to the 2027 and 2029 version of yourself, a ball-peen hammer, and you're hammering yourself in the forehead. Like, the things they are doing now will be used against them by a progressive president or an independent megalomaniac who is a billionaire who becomes president of the United States. They are setting precedents.
But all of that is fantasy. He just made all of that up. You're taking a ball-peen hammer for what you're doing today and what you're saying today. Someone's going to run on in 2026 and 2028, a radical leftist billionaire celebrity, like a Mark Cuban, let's say. No, America has a short memory. We're going to get into the shutdown also later in this thing. Look, the moment the government opens back up, everyone's going to forget the shutdown like that. If Trump doesn't market and point to, I brought peace to the Middle East, everyone will completely forget it within 48 hours. The news cycle happens so fast now. So he's acting like everyone has this photographic memory. It's not true. What they're doing now, the No King's Day, it's already forgotten. It's been 48 hour No King's Day. No one cares. It did nothing.
For an all-powerful president, which they're fine right now because it's their guy doing it. But as you write in Axios, they're setting precedents that rip to shreds the constitutional norms that
wrong. Oh, so wrong. Now, I got in this exact argument with my buddy who leans a little more liberal than me last night. He said, Doug, his fear is that Trump is shredding the Constitution and that he's setting a precedent that the Democrats, are going to be able to use to justify all their evil. I go, no, the Democrats started this. That video I had to take down because I misquoted Caroline Leavitt. I said it was a new video with Barack Obama, and really it was July 23rd with apologies. Removed that video, made an announcement down in the posts. But this started in 2016 with Obama. Nothing like that has happened before. So don't say the tit for tat, the back and forth is what's called Trump's revenge. No, the Democrats set a standard, a legal standard in 2016. They went after a political opponent. They framed him. They used the FBI and the CIA against Trump. And now in our calling that out and prosecuting that, that is not mere empty political lawfare. That is the Constitution working. And remember, no one complained back then. Not one Democrat said, I resign in protest of going after political opponent. I resign in protest of smashing the Constitution. Joe Scarborough repeated all their lies. He was part of the lie chamber for Obama that went after Trump, and then the lie chamber of Biden that went after Trump. Joe Scarborough himself saying Biden was sharp as a tack. So now if we push back, they're going, he's shredding the Constitution. No, son. The Constitution, if Kamala Harris won the election in November, the Constitution would be gone. So even if Trump has no respect for the Constitution, I'm going to give him that. I'm not saying it's true. I'm going, even if I grant you that Trump has no respect for the Constitution or tradition or manners, even if he says burn it all down, the only reason why you have a Constitution going forward from November forward for the rest of this country's history is because this man won an election. It would have been gone. The Democrats would have packed the Supreme Court, expanded the state, edited the Constitution to mean whatever they mean for it. Your Constitution would be, so for any of the constitutions, I'm talking about the naysayers, the people that hate Trump, David French, Thomas Massey, Jonah Goldberg, these big kind of center guys that are trying to criticize Trump as I'm a constitutionalist. Your Constitution would be gone if this man didn't win. Also to Jonah Goldberg, this man got Jewish hostages released. If Kamala Harris won, your hostages would still be stuck in a cave somewhere. You owe this man a long leash, including raising the debt. I've got fiscal conservatives coming after me going, Doug, I can't believe Trump's just another rhino raising you don't suddenly go fiscally conservative on this guy when he's needs a long leash to reform the government from what the last 4 years did. You don't suddenly constrain him with a budget. It's like if you start a business and you take out a $200,000 loan to start a donut shop, and then someone comes in and goes, your donut shop on day one, your donut shop only made $150. We need that loan back. It's time to fiscally conserve. It's time to drop that loan. And he goes, no, I need that loan to get on my feet. That's what Trump is doing. Sorry for the rant. Let's go.
They've gone around yelling about for 50 years, whether it's, Article 1 powers like we did back when we were in power there to say, hey, we've got the right to balance the budget, or whether it's you pick whatever they were once champions of that they've abandoned. They're hurting themselves.
No, we're not. We have not abandoned the Constitution. And the Constitution, by the way, is completely meaningless if it does not have a Congress defending it and writing laws. And Congress will not write laws. They won't do their job and get together. So that creates a power vacuum. And then the executive branch, the president, I don't care if it's Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, the executive branch comes in and does a bunch of executive orders because they don't have to get it passed through Congress. They just buy rid of a pen. It'll be there for the 4 years while they're ruling, and then it goes away. The president has become Congress. But remember, it's Congress not doing their job, including Joe Scarborough back when he was working. You didn't do your job. You created this mess.
This will come back to haunt them.
It's not coming back to haunt anything. We're going to win. We're going to keep winning. Here's Speaker Mike Johnson on the shutdown and versus the protest.
These rallies we described as the Hate America rallies because there is no better description. Look at who was involved.
I love the great branding. Mike Johnson's getting into the Trump a way of doing things. He said the Hate America rally. That's like calling a name and making it stick. That's a good brand. The Hate America rally. I heard some of you say the No Kings rally is the No Brains rally. I called it the No Hygiene rally.
Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats went out there to participate. They stood arm in arm, side by side, with some of the most radical groups that have ever assembled on U.S. soil. They openly advertised that they were co-sponsored. They were Soros-funded, and they were co-sponsored by the Communist Party USA, the Young Communist League of New York, and all the other radical groups. They're out there championing that issue. Now,
this is why Joe Scarborough, I love the guy in a clown. That's kind of self-referential. That's an accurate costume, the guy in the clown suit over at the No Kings rally. But Mike Johnson is actually directly addressing Joe Scarborough. What's going to happen in 26 and 28? Who exactly is going to be the Democrat guy that runs and has the credibility to impugn Trump's character for what he's doing right now? They have nothing because they have chummed up with radicals, outed formal Communist Party of USA helped fund this rally.
Look, listen to these people's own language, Sean, what they stand for. It is completely the opposite of what America was founded upon. They don't like living here. They don't like capitalism or the free enterprise system. They don't like the founding principles of the country.
They hate families. They hate Christians.
Individual freedom and limited government and the rule of law and peace through strength and fiscal responsibility, free markets, human dignity. They're against all of that. And they go out and they put out these radical messages, violent messages. They want to call for the murder of a president who's already survived 2 failed assassination attempts, and they're mocking the death of Charlie Kirk. These people can be evaluated and judged on their own actions, and I think everybody in the country can see exactly what's going on here.
Yeah, the whole country can tell them, has already told them, go to hell. We're not buying it. They're not effective. Most people reject it. I don't care if as many as 7 million people showed up to the No Kings protest. It is not one of them is a MAGA person who has converted over to Kamala's side, so it is meaningless. If it started expanding, if it was a bubble build up movement going, hey, we're done with MAGA. We're done with Republicans and we're done with conservatives. We're done with the family. We're done with Christianity. We're done with it. We're done with masculinity. We're for just just feminism. We're for just feminism, atheism, transing kids. Any sex can become any other animal. You can identify as an animal if you want, and you'll become a magic animal. None of that's true. And because of that, the Democrat Party is having a tantrum because their message is not working. Here's Marsha Blackburn on specifically triangulating why Jack Smith is in trouble, because it proves who he went after in those 8 politicians they spied on, tells you everything.
I think you're exactly right. And you know, when you look at the 8 senators that Jack Smith decided to surveil, there's a common thread. We are all Republicans. We support President Trump, and we had valid questions about the 2020 election. And thank goodness Kash Patel has fired everybody that was in that CR-15 unit working for Jack Smith. So they're fired. We are going after him. DOJ can do their investigation. I have sent a letter over to the D.C. bar for a complaint, and then he practices. He's licensed in Tennessee and New York. And
she's from Tennessee. She's going to pull his license. That's not enough. But the main thing I wanted to point out is the common thing between the 8 senators that they spied on is they were all Trump supporters. People go like, why would you go after Lindsey Graham? He's a Democrat. Wrong. Lindsey Graham is one of Trump's most loyal supporters when the weather is good. Okay. When the weather's bad, Lindsey Graham will dogpile on Trump. But Trump knew that he needed Lindsey Graham for the South early on. And he got some early support from Lindsey Graham. But that's why Jack Smith went after Lindsey Graham, is we might think he's a rhino, but Jack Smith was going after Trump's ally. Speaking of, here's an ally of Biden still lying, being called out lying on the day shows. Little clip of Karine. She looks a lot better today than she did yesterday. This is a better outfit, better makeup. Her hair's looking a little better.
How to move forward. And for me, as a Black woman, as a person who's also LGBTQ,
as a Black gay woman, as a Black gay woman, anytime you start a sentence like that, me, as a white 6'8" man, or as a white 6'8" Christian, you already know that I'm not going to tell you of my substance. I'm going for my identity. What credibility do I have as a white 6'8" Christian? And then the next thing I say, I'm going to try to use that as some kind of integrity or some kind of thing to make what I'm about to say mean more. So I'm going to go, as a white 6'8" male Christian, I believe unicorns are real. See, so I bring in my credibility to say something stupid. And Karine Jean-Pierre does the same thing. Still, she thinks that playing that card, that Blackness, womanness, and gayness is something I should respect in and of itself. I acknowledge that all those things exist. I'm only saying it doesn't tell me anything about your correctness, because I can negate your argument with, I can find another Black lesbian woman who disagrees with you. So your arguments count, your skin color and your sexuality counter each other out. Now we're going to have to, at some point, get to the argument you're making. Is the argument you're making true or not, no matter who you are? I don't care if you're a time-traveling vampire Jew. What do you have to say? Now, here's the opposite of Karine Jean-Pierre. I really love this. This is Andy No. I'm going to quote against Karine Jean-Pierre here with my Andy No, who I've met before. I have a lot of respect for him as a journalist, but he's a gay Asian man. But you'll never hear him open his sentence with, as a gay Asian man. He's just going to give you the facts and lay down a load of truth on the funding of Antifa. And it's not true because he's a gay Asian man. It's because he's a dang good journalist.
The far left in Antifa is unique in a way in that Antifa encouraged their supporters to get arrested, to be violent, get arrested, get it captured on camera. One, for propaganda purposes, but two, to get individuals to become party to lawsuits, lawfare against police departments in cities. And in liberal jurisdictions, the Democrat-run city council will vote to settle. 1 million, no problem. 10 million, no problem. 20 million, no problem. Cities across America have settled. So those who were arrested for rioting get rewarded with money. So the funding comes from all these places. And there's also an international element as well, which I've been discussing a lot in the Capitol here. The International Antifa Defense Fund, which takes money from donors all over the world to provide cash support to Antifa militants internationally. So it's not all clandestine. That's my point. You can see the Cash App accounts, the Venmo accounts. You don't obviously see who's donating. They're all choosing to hide their donation. But how it's being done is in the open or through.
It's in the open, guys. So this goes back to there are no such thing as conspiracies or playing Scooby-Doo or secretive stuff. By the way, the funding of Antifa does not bother me as much as just that Antifa exists in the first place. In other words, you have to have a bunch of radical people there ready to go before they'll do all their damage because of funding. So we're going after funding, believing that economics is everything, and economics is not as everything as values and morals. So the corruption is there first. These evil people exist first, and they were created within this system. These are trust fund babies. These are violent people that don't believe in the Imago Dei, that we're made in the image of God. First is the problem, and then they're supercharged, put on steroids with money. The money's given out in the open, so we don't have to go too into like Soros territory to bust them, to dry up that money. But you dry up that money, they're still radical. They'll do it for free because they hate country, they hate God, and they hate your family. Here's one of my favorite journalists, Batya Unger Sargon, on accomplishments of Trump.
Well, I want to start by saying I totally support the protests. I think that this is, a very important part of what it means to be an American is to raise up your voice in any form that you wish.
Americans, we're not against free speech, guys. If it's peaceful, they can go out in the streets, march. Good. Welcome to America.
First Amendment rights, and they are precious and dear. I also think that this was not indicative or representative even of the mainstream Democratic Party.
True.
These protests were overwhelmingly white. They were overwhelmingly elderly people, older people. Now, again, white boomers have the right to have a mass therapy session about the fact that Donald Trump won.
That's
but
right.
To call it a no kings protest, to act like he is a king is so utterly preposterous. This is a man who won the popular vote. He won every swing state. He is a person who is enacting the exact agenda he promised he was going to enact while he was campaigning.
I like explaining. I know everyone's going to say in the comments, as soon as I say this is a democracy, they go, we're a republic. We're a republic. I get it. We're a republic. Hold on for a second. But I like explaining to Democrats what a democracy is. We're going like, he won the vote. He won swing states. He won the popular vote. He's acting out his agenda. And they're like, he's a king. No, if there ever was a Democrat, he's a Democrat.
And so what they're actually protesting is the absolute perfection of American democracy, where a person campaigned on an agenda, won the popular vote, and is now enacting that agenda. So it was actually a protest of democracy, all of which is to say the only way.
The Democrats really should be marching on calling it the no democracy vote, because that's what they're protesting. It's the no democracy day. No democracy protest.
To greet such a preposterous proposition, calling this a no kings rally when it's actually an anti-democracy rally is to crap on it. I'm sorry, is to basically make fun of it. And I think that has been the Trump administration's approach. They didn't try to stop it, God forbid, because he's not a king. They allowed them to have their say. They allowed them to go out there, and then they made fun of them.
And yeah, make fun of them. She's defending the tweet or the meme. What is this? Am I going to do this one? Katie Pavlich on the Fluent Act 400. Oh, this is just on the good job of busting criminals we're doing. And some of those criminals, most of them are going to be in the Democrat
Party. They want safety. It's clear from the people at these No Kings protests that they like to live in safe neighborhoods and they don't ever venture into the same places that they claim they're standing up for. On the issue of illegal immigration and how it's related to crime, Kristi Noem, DHS secretary, announced today they've arrested 480,000 criminal aliens just since the beginning of the year. That's like a small city of criminals. So it really proves the point that for years we've been told that illegal immigration has nothing to do with crime, when in fact we are finding out that it's actually the undercurrent of a lot of this violence that is happening in New York, in Chicago. And we've actually known this dirty secret for a long time, but Democrat politicians were willing to say, it's okay, nobody really cares about the inner city. We're just going to allow this crime to happen. Someone's getting a kickback. There's a lot of corruption happening.
And the worst of all, though, I'm going to end on this. The Democrats said that if you call out immigration crime, you're a racist. So they hid behind this, you just hate Mexicans. You're a xenophobe. That's what they hid behind, and it's not working anymore. But there was a tie. Remember when Trump first said he wanted to build a wall because they're sending over their criminals there. He called them the R word, offenders, violent thugs, and everyone after Trump going, you racist. And lo and behold, you look at the numbers, they've busted 480,000 criminals that just so happen to be illegal aliens. Now, correlation does not prove causation. Okay, so I'm not saying being Mexican is what causes you to be a criminal, but I do say if the first thing you do when you go to another country is break the law by going into that country, it shows that you have a lax view of the law and legality, which is more likely to be a criminal than not. I'm Doug in Exile. Subscribe and join our membership.